with more Barnstable This Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live in studio, Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board Executive Director, David Augustinho.
Good morning.
Good morning, David. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Good to be here.
Good to be here. Thank you. I love having our guests come in live in studio, so it's great. So talking about an interesting topic today, out-of-school youth. First, let's define out-of-school youth.
Well, it's exactly what it says. We have our funding comes in two streams for youth, and this is federal funding to the Workforce Investment Board. And one stream is for in-school at-risk youth, and the other is for out-of-school overseeing the Workforce Investment Act. And so they've changed the numbers as far as who we serve. We used to be able to serve up to 70% of in-school youth with our fund. So now we have to serve mostly out-of-school youth with 75% of our money. And part of the issue is that the out-of-school youth is very difficult to reach. So we're talking about youth who are 16 to 24, who are not enrolled in a school program and are either did not complete high school, and so need the it used to be called the GED, now it's called the HiSET.
Okay.
And that's the equivalency degree now.
Test.
Or are in some ways deficient by income, or have other barriers, language barriers, or other barriers that are keeping them from full employment.
Indeed. So this really kind of runs the gamut. So it could be folks who have not yet completed high school, or who do have the GED, or who have graduated and who have not chosen to go on to college, correct?
That's correct. So it's a very difficult population to engage. They're kind of separated from the system, and there's a reason why they're separated from the system. They were not the top kids. They were not the kids who had a great experience in high school, as a rule. Not always, but as a rule. So trying to get them to be part of a system is not easy. So what we're doing, what we did was we tried to RFP out these funds. So we tried to get an agency to provide services to this group, and we would just give them the money and let them provide the services, and that didn't work. There were no takers. So now what we're doing is we're doing the services through our Career Center, Career Opportunities here in Hyannis or in Falmouth. But one of the things that we're doing is we're offering agencies a $500 payment for referring out-of-school youth. So any for-profit or not-for-profit agency, whether it's state, federal, or private, if they would refer out-of-school youth to our Career Center, and if we enroll them in our program, we'll cut them a check for $500 per youth.
That's great. So what kind of agencies would be referring these out-of-school youth?
I could see something like Champ Homes.
Oh, sure.
Would be an agency that might. Even the state TANF office, the welfare office, DTA, they engage that population quite a bit. It could be someone in a school system who is aware of a youth that separates from the school system. Although one of the reasons it's hard to find these youth now is because the schools are doing a much better job at keeping young people engaged. So rather than dropping out, they have a lot of alternative programs in place that are keeping young people engaged and making it difficult for us to find the numbers that we need to be able to populate the program.
Indeed. I would think, overall not a terrible problem to have. I think it's, I remember speaking with superintendents of schools years ago, very concerned about the rising number of dropouts, and they've definitely, as you say, have put some programs in place. But to be able to help, those who have slipped through the cracks or who are looking for that, certainly a challenge. And I can see how it would be difficult to source these folks because they're not exactly out there looking for advancement opportunities.
Exactly. I mean, they're separated from the system. So they're least likely to be coming to look for services. Interesting that you mentioned the graduation rates. About 7 or 8 years ago, we were very involved in that issue, and we still have a program where we're working with third graders because the research showed that that young people who were having attendance problems, even in grammar school,
Wow.
were most likely to be dropouts later on. So we designed a program that works with third graders to make sure that that they're in school and learning.
Absolutely. I guess if you get away with skipping class when you're in third grade, it's easier to get away with it or to think it's okay when you get older.
Absolutely.
So, David, talk to me a little bit about some of the programs that you do have for these out-of-school youth. You know, what do you do to help connect them with careers and perhaps help them enhance their lives a little bit?
Yeah, well, the first thing that we would do if someone does not have a high school diploma, we'll prepare them for the high set exam, so that they'll be able to have a high school credential. So that's the first thing that we would do. If someone does have a diploma, then we would talk about work readiness kind of skills, training. So we try to get them licenses, certifications. One program that the Workforce Board, we've applied for funding to train people in the HVAC area, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Which it's a great field, it pays very well. So if we were to receive that funding, say, then we would take some of these young people and put them into this program, which is really an apprenticeship type program. We put them to work right away, provide the training and skills so that they can advance in their workplace. So that's the kind of thing that we would do to try to get people ready for work, licensed, credentialed, and on the job. And then we do a year's follow-up activity.
Oh, great.
So if we did place someone, it's not like we just cut them loose and let them go there. We'd be providing counseling and other interventions for up to a year once they're on the job.
That's great. So, you know, looking back in the past, I think it probably runs the gamut from folks who have gone on and to be successful, and then folks who do need a little extra help after that year has gone by. Yeah,
it's and again, it's a population that is not going to succeed without supports, and so we try to do everything that we can to ensure that they're successful right from the beginning. And when I talk about job readiness skills, I'm talking about skills that will help a young person be able to be successful at the workplace. Because employers tell us the same thing all the time. You've heard me say this before. It doesn't matter whether they're dealing with high school dropouts, high school graduates, or college graduates. When young people get to the workplace today, they don't know how to act in the workplace. They don't know how to answer a telephone in a business-like way. They don't know how to interface with a supervisor in a business-like way. So we inculcate those skills right up front so that young people have an opportunity to be able to be successful.
So incredibly important to have those workplace skills, and I think the days of the weekend job or the summer job are really kind of waning. And a lot of times, you know, when we were growing up, that was where you learned all those skills. And you know, answering phones, I don't think anybody does that except at work anymore. So to be able to learn that skill is so important. So let's go back and talk a little bit about the referrals. Obviously, you're offering this incentive to agencies. Right. How do they know who's eligible for this program? Like, what makes a good candidate for them to refer?
Well, obviously, the first criteria is the age criteria, and that's 16 to 24. And then someone who, I mean, for most of the people I think who would be doing referral, they would be in some kind of social service kind of setting. So they would be aware that this young person has some barriers to full employment. Barriers such as it could be English language skills, it could be basic skills deficient. I mean, someone might have finished high school and still have some issues regarding with basic skills, especially math skills. So those would be the target group. And the process for referring is that if someone would just go to the website capejobs.com, there's information there, and there's a form there that they would use to refer the individual. And if we enroll the person in the program, and what we'll do is they just have to fill out the form, send it in, and we'll contact the individual. And if they're interested, at least enough to come in for an interview, and then we enroll them in the program, then we'll pay a $500 fee for the referral.
Great. Is there a deadline for this, or is this a rolling program? How does it work?
It's a rolling program for now, and I think that will be going at least through October or November of next year. So there's plenty of time for people to engage with the program.
Great. And so really, what are your overall goals to serve this population of people here on the Cape? You know, what do you define as a success for this out-of-school program?
Well, the simplest measure is a job. So if someone is in a job, and then we do wage record matching. We check their wages for 6 months out and a year out. So so someone that's in a job and earning an income, reasonable income, that's the highest, that's the easiest measure that we have. But also skill gains. So if someone came to us and they were not reading at, say, a 10th grade level, then that gain up to reading at a 10th grade level is a success for us. So we have different measures, but basically the job is the outcome.
Wonderful. Well, David, I thank you so much for coming in and joining us here live in studio. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Sarah.
Thank you so much. David Augustinho is the Executive Director of the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board. You can learn more, visit at capejobs.com or .org.
Either.
Either. capejobs.com, capejobs.org. More to come on Barnstable This Morning.